What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and believe it or not, I'm talking about Death Battle. I haven't done one of these in ages, because I've had a very up and down roller coaster relationship with the show. I've had some super salty, angry reactions, I've had some super hype pop-off reactions, I've gotten into little arguments and debates with people who have worked on the show, but then I've also had my art featured a couple times on the Death Battle cast. Not to mention the 2 versus shows I made that were pretty much inspired by Death Battle. The 3rd one I'm doing now is definitely more of its own thing, but you get the point. Although all of that stuff was years ago, the roller coaster has more than smoothed out since then, and I haven't really talked about Death Battle much at all. I've just been chilling out the past few years, only popping in and getting involved when I see a matchup that I'm super duper interested in. But this current season has been blowing me away. Yoda vs King Mickey, Heihachi vs Geese, and now more recently Poe vs Iron Fist. These past few months have pretty much entirely reignited my love for the show, so I'd better get back to discussions, starting with one of these matchup videos before they snatch them all up, because at this rate, they're gonna get them all. So Ben Singer, thank you for the amazing show, I apologize for the billionth time about my salty versus kid behavior years ago, and let's dive into my most wanted Death Battle matchups. They're top 10, because there's 10, and they're in order. Yeah! Number 10 is Little Mac from Punch-Out vs Makunochi Ippo from Hajime no Ippo. Now, for the longest time, I didn't want anyone touching this match, not just Death Battle, because it was essentially my Goku vs Superman. I know that sounds odd because it's not really a controversial matchup, these aren't 2 super duper popular characters, and they aren't exactly very powerful in the realm of verses. It's just that I love both these characters a lot, they're both super duper important to me, and I've covered this matchup so many times over such a long period of time that I just got super attached to it, like this is my matchup, no one else can touch it. But over the past year or so, I've just gotten a lot more relaxed about the matchup. I'm confident enough in my own research and own outcome to be fine with it if someone else were to get a different result. Plus, I just think it'd be really cool to see. More than enough time has passed since TJ vs Balrog for us to get another intense boxing match, and both have expressive 3D models to work with. And if you're new to the channel and aren't caught up on my antics, who I think wins is Makunochi Ippo. Little Mac is undoubtedly the stronger character, but not to such an extent where it would guarantee him the victory alone. Ippo has the speed advantage, equaling characters who can create sonic booms. He can go for 10 rounds, giving him a bigger stamina than Mac's 3 rounds. Ippo can still fight when he's unconscious, and he also has a lot more moves, including stunning and paralyzing moves. Just lots of stuff Mac has never had to combat before, while Mac himself is something Ippo faces all the time. I know Gigamac is a thing, but Gigamac has no feats, so we don't know how much stronger he is compared to Mac's base form, plus it also reduces his speed, a category Mac is already losing heavily in. On the outside, it looks like Little Mac should win because of the cartoony over-the-top art style of the Punch-Out series, but when it comes down to the stuff that matters, the actual numbers, Ippo comes out on top, so it'd be fun to see Death Battle bring that to life. So yeah, Little Mac vs Ippo is number 10, and don't worry, the other sections aren't going to be this long, this is just a matchup I'm super passionate about. Number 9 is Hero and Baymax vs Hiccup and Toothless. So, we just got Poe, our first animated movie character. The floodgates for that are now open. And this is no doubt one of the most popular matchups that involves 2 of them, or in this case, 4. In fact, in one of the recent Death Battle casts, if I can remember correctly, they actually acknowledged this matchup when bringing up themselves how Poe is the first animated movie character. The connections for this matchup are pretty simple, just scrawny geeky guys who befriend flying companions. Don't need much more than that. As for who I think wins, probably Hiccup and Toothless. I just feel their companionship and teamwork is a lot stronger, and Hiccup is better on his own if they were to get split up. After all, he has that flame sword that can create explosions by spraying gas. And he's a much better on-the-spot strategist. Hero doesn't really have much he can do on his own if he and Baymax get split up. I mean, he has his microbots, but we never see him use them as a weapon in the movie. In Disney Infinity, sure, but I just think it'd be a fun fight. Matchup number 8 is King from Tekken vs Incineroar from Pokemon. Just like how it was interesting when we got Beerus as a recent Dragon Ball character instead of another Saiyan, it would be interesting to get another Tekken character instead of one of the other Mishimas. Also, matches where fighting game characters don't fight other fighting game characters is cool too. Especially since it's another Pokemon like Goro vs Machamp. The connections are also really nice too. They're both wrestling cats who are big show-offs but also have huge hearts deep down inside. Incineroar likes to help out smaller, weaker Pokemon, and King likes to use his winnings to fund orphanages. On top of having cool connections, it's also a really close fight. In terms of speed and strength, King is actually able to scale to the Jack robots, as he defeated one in Tekken 7. He didn't demolish or tear through armies of them like Heihachi and Akuma can, but he definitely did beat it. I don't know much about Pokemon, so I can't say anything on Incineroar for certain, but from what I'm hearing and seeing, just looking it up, King should barely take this. Even Incineroar's fire comes into play. According to a Pokédex entry, it says his fire can get up to 3600 degrees Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, a weaker earlier version of the Jack Robot King defeated was able to survive atmospheric re-entry for a while, which can get up to 5000 degrees Fahrenheit. And on top of all of this, it would just be a really cool fight to watch. I don't think we've had a 3D wrestling match before, having these characters just throw each other around, all the fire everywhere, and they could even make it a tag team match, King and Armor King versus 2 Incineroars. So yeah, it'd be fun. Number 7 is Zim from Invader Zim versus Sgt Carraro from Sergeant Frog. Yep, like Mac vs Ippo, quite a few of these will be fights I have done myself before. I just really want to see Death Battle take a stab at it, especially since I don't remember who I picked as the winner. It was so long ago, and the episode is no longer up because of copyright claims, blah. But what I do know is that it would be a really fun and crazy match with lots of interesting connections, because they are alien invaders after all. Plus, their stats are really crazy. I think Zim is way stronger and Carraro is way faster, or it could be the other way around. And both of them have like hacksy one-shot equipment stuff where stats would barely come into play. Zim with his pack and organ harvester, Carraro with his Carro Ball. Zim is weak to water while Carraro gets strength from it. Carraro is extremely lazy while Zim is a lot smarter and more determined and hardworking. This matchup would just have a lot of crazy, funny, and chaotic energy, and I'd love to see it realized in a Death Battle episode. Matchup number 6 is Dr. Neo Cortex versus Dr. Eggman. Multiple Sonic characters have come back multiple times, Sonic and Shadow both 2 times each. Well, one of Sonic's comebacks was technically Archie Sonic, which is a different character, but you get it. And now I just think it's Dr. Eggman's turn to get a second chance, and who better to pit him up against than another mad scientist, Crash Bandicoot's own Dr. Cortex. Now this is another matchup that I have done myself before, and I came to the conclusion that Cortex would come out on top. He just has a lot more tools and equipment to work with when it comes to up-close and personal combat, not relying on big robots or machines, and his fight against the evil Twins robot shows that he would be capable of taking down Eggman's devices. The scales would tip even more in Cortex's favor if he was allowed to have Uka Uka, just like Crash had Aku Aku against Spyro. But I'd love to see Death Battles take on the match, especially since the dialogue during the fight would just be hilarious because both of these characters are comedy gold. I even offer up my own voice to play Dr. Cortex if needed. Just contact me, Ben. Number 5 is Saitama vs Captain Underpants, caped baldies who get their powers when they lose their hair. Well, technically Mr. Krupp never had hair, it was a toupee, but you get what I mean. They're also both parodies of the superhero genre, and it's another matchup I did before. Don't worry, there's only one more of those on this list. The rest are completely new. In my version of the fight, Captain Underpants came out on top. He has some planet-level feats and faster-than-light feats from space travel across long distances. But this verdict could have changed by now. I haven't really kept up with One Punch Man Season 2, so I don't know if there's anything else Saitama has done that puts him ahead of Captain Underpants yet. But regardless of whoever should claim victory at this current point in time, the fight would be extremely fun to do and would be hilarious to watch. Seeing Saitama get pushed to his limits and shocked by a superhero that looks even more ridiculous than himself, just gold. More comedy gold. I even thought of the best tagline ever for this fight. Not all heroes wear capes, but they do all wear underpants. Number 4 is the Kids Next Door versus the Teen Titans. And obviously this is the cartoon Teen Titans only. If comics were included, it would be a total wash, Titans on top. But limiting it to just the TV show, it's actually pretty close. You may think Raven kinda solos both verses because she's incredibly powerful and possibly the strongest Titan, but the Kids Next Door actually have quite a few near planet level and faster than light stuff. Even in the very last episode of the show, Father turns into like this dragon form and blows a giant hole through the planet. The K&D can tank and dodge this fire on a regular basis, granting them both those stats. So I think the Kids Next Door insane stats and equipment matching up against the variety and powers of the Teen Titans would just be a really interesting clash. Plus, the connections may be simple, but they are there, just youthful teams of 5 that have access to way more advanced technology than they probably should have. There is one big flaw though that could prevent this fight from happening, or at the very least, hinder it. And that's when it comes to the fight animation, because there's 10 characters you'd have to animate. That'd probably just be way too many characters to deal with. I'm sure the Megaman Battle Royale was already pushing it for them. But either way, it'd be cool to see. More cartoon fights like Danny vs. Jake or the upcoming Star vs. Steven are more than welcome. Matchup number 3 is Gru vs. Megamind, taking us back to the animated movie characters. In case you haven't noticed, I love the comedy gold matches. And this is the last matchup I've covered before. When I did it, Megamind came out on top. He's taken a punch from Titan who could punch a building in half and then throw it. In the flight suit he made while disguised as Metro Man, he was able to keep up with Titan, who can fly at supersonic speeds and should also have Metro Man's light speed reactions. His minion and brain bots are a lot more reliable than Gru's own minions. I just think Megamind's smarter and has much superior technology compared to Gru, like his dehydration gun for example, which could potentially be an instant win since Gru doesn't have fast enough reactions to dodge lasers. Gru does have a couple impressive feats of his own, like when he dodged missiles, and he survived getting blown into a crater by those missiles, but I just don't think they're quite enough to match up to Megamind's own stats, plus once again the technology advantage. But Death Battle could prove me wrong, who knows, I just think it'd be fun to watch, especially since animated movie characters are possible now. Number 2 is Mordecai and Rigby from Regular Show versus Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. This is like the modern cartoon equivalent to Goku versus Superman. Classic cartoon one obviously being Mickey Mouse versus Bugs Bunny. Honestly, there's not many connections to this matchup beyond it just being two pairs of friends, but it is very thematic as they're both the shows that saved Cartoon Network and brought it back to its former glory. Now at first glance, it may seem like Finn and Jake dominate this matchup because they come from a magical fantasy land, while Mordecai and Rigby are just two dudes in a park. But pretty insane stuff happens all the time in Regular Show, and Mordecai and Rigby even get powers that they use multiple times throughout the series, Death Kwon Do and the Baby Duck Gundam being examples. Now up until recently I would have said Mordecai and Rigby win this match, but Adventure Time had a special not too long ago that has some interesting stuff in it. I won't go into detail because spoilers obviously, but I will say it's very versus relevant. Overall, this matchup would be really cool to see on Death Battle, and it's another cartoon fight. Thumbs up. And my number 1 most wanted Death Battle matchup is Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead versus Joel from The Last of Us. This may seem a bit anticlimactic to those who don't know either of these characters very well, but it has the potential to be one of the most brutal and intense death battles ever, especially if it's in live action, which I really hope it would be. It would end up having a very similar feel to Solid Snake vs. Sam Fisher, where there is a difference in stats, but it wouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, the result relying a lot more on their personal skill and survivalist instincts. As for who wins, I'm gonna go with Rick Grimes. As much as I said the fight didn't rely on stats, Rick actually does have one pretty insane feat in the TV show. In Season 9, he kinda survives the explosion and destruction of a big stone bridge, even though he was already bleeding out and close to death. So yeah, that's pretty good. That aside, I am mostly in it for the fight itself, once again for how brutal it could potentially be. It'd be super cool to have a live-action fight that uses other characters beyond just superhero comic characters, and also one that takes place in a bright lit-up forest, instead of like a dirty basement or gritty garage or something. Plus, I'd love to have another fight with an actual story and end goal to it, Rick and Joel fighting over supplies and equipment, just like Snake and Sam Fisher fought over data. You could even have zombies show up attracted to the noise they're making, and they could throw zombies at each other. Overall though, I hope I made my case. I think Rick vs. Joel would be an amazing fight, especially in live action, and it's my most wanted death battle matchup. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think of these matchup ideas? What other death battle topics do you think I should cover? And what are your matchup ideas? Tell me in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leopold the Brave, out.